Triple H called an audible on April 20th. The whole Roman Reigns WrestleMania 42 finish started cracking the next night. That was the fallout show for Monday Night Raw. And according to CBS Sports and Last Word on Sports, the moment landed right after CM Punk addressed losing to Roman in the main event. Punk had just taken that loss on the biggest stage, and instead of sulking, he came out and cut it straight, saying he was staying ready. Then Cody Rhodes showed up. Watch what happens next, because they did not go at each other like heels and babyfaces in some cheap angle. They traded jabs loose and friendly, like two guys who knew exactly where they stood. Then Punk turned to leave, and Cody hit him with 4 words that shifted the whole board. Just say when. That was not a throwaway line in a worked promo. According to the reporting, that line was taken as Cody basically telling Punk to pick the time and place because he was ready. And the boys in the locker room clocked it immediately. You knew fans were mad about Roman winning. You didn't know Kel Now reported CM Punk led in stadium merchandise sales around WrestleMania 42, with Cody right behind him in second. And the office shifted the entire main event picture based on those receipts. Now look, in this business, you do not throw a line like that out on television unless it has already been talked about backstage. Promoters do not leave that kind of door open unless there is real drawing money attached. And make no mistake, Cody versus Punk is real money in 2026. Think about this. Cody left the system, built his name outside, came back, and forced the company to push him as a top babyface. That is a shoot that turned into a work, and the audience knows he made himself. Then you have Punk, a man who walked out, burned bridges, came back, got hurt, got cut, and came back again. And still, every time that music hits, the crowd reacts. So when Cody told him to say when, he was not talking to a mid-card guy. He was talking to one of the only names in that company who could stand across from him and not feel like a step down. This is where it gets interesting, because the reports make it clear this was respectful and competitive, not some buried tension finally spilling out. Back in the territory days, promoters would protect that dynamic until the ticket sales absolutely needed it. Today, Triple H is letting you see it early. Which brings us back to why WWE pivoted to Cody and Punk for SummerSlam after Roman retained. They wanted you thinking about this dream match right now, not when the poster dropped. Truth is, Roman beating Punk at WrestleMania was not just about Roman keeping the throne. According to Sportskeeda, that loss became fuel that fed directly into the next program possibilities. Loss sets the table. Punk lost the main event, walked out the next night, and Cody stepped in to lay the tracks for the future. That does not mean the match was booked that night, but it meant the angle was alive, and the company was letting fans connect the dots without beating them over the head. And that is smarter than half the stuff you see on television today, because fans who grew up on the Monday Night Wars do not want to be spoon-fed. They want to feel like they are part of the business, not marks being talked down to. See, Cody is defending the top babyface slot in a company always looking for the next guy, while Punk is chasing relevance at the top level again. That tension is built on competition, not hatred, and that is way harder to book than a standard grudge. The older audience, guys in their 40s and 50s, know when something feels forced, so the office let it simmer, letting lines like just say when hang in the air while the dirt sheets picked it apart and the locker room talked. You always hear the bar talk saying Roman beating Punk was the wrong call, but the coverage says Roman's win became part of the story moving forward, because in wrestling, the finish is just the setup. Punk losing gave him an edge and a reason to stay hungry. And this is the bit people miss. The business side kicked in immediately, with executives looking at pay-per-view buys and live gates, realizing Cody versus Punk checks massive boxes. You have two huge names with histories that do not cancel each other out. Usually, when you put two top guys together, one eats the other and somebody gets buried. But this feels like a program where both men could come out stronger if the office does it right. The locker room dynamic framed them as equals, not mentor and student, and that changes everything. Because when two guys are equals, the finish matters more, and who gets the push tells you who the company is betting on. Cody is the trusted company guy now, while Punk remains the wild card who does not always play ball with the system. So when Cody stepped into that risk, he handed Punk a choice, which tells you plenty before anybody hits a witness stand. Now watch what happens next. The old school mentality says you run this kind of setup for months with slow burns and teases. Today it moves faster, but the psychology of building anticipation remains the same. Those 4 words carried the weight of a whole program because it felt like a shoot wrapped in a work. And that cuts right to the center of why WWE pivoted toward SummerSlam. They needed an anchor after Roman's win, and a clean storyline between two massive babyfaces gave them the runway. The fans were already split, with some seeing Cody stepping up and others thinking Punk was being set up to get moved aside. Name one executive from the Vince era who consistently protected both guys in a program like this. 1. It is a short list. The reports pointed to it being a natural progression from WrestleMania, and that is why it worked. Cody did not go after Punk. He gave him the choice, showing a champion mindset, and Punk simply walked away to keep the loop open. Roman winning did not kill Cody or Punk, and the receipts point the other way. The lazy take is that Roman won, Cody got robbed, and WWE blew the call. You knew the internet was screaming about a burial. You didn't know Sports Yahoo reported signed Cody Rhodes posters jumped from $125 retail to more than $250 on the secondary market after WrestleMania weekend. And that proves his value did not get washed away. Fans do not open their wallets for somebody they stopped caring about. The live crowd was still buying Punk, and they were still buying Cody, which meant two babyfaces stayed over after the biggest heel win of the year. In the territory days, the promoter only cared about who was drawing money. Cody demand held, and Punk demand showed up strong. PW Torch had the April 1st, 2024 Raw drawing 1,783,000 viewers, proving Roman-heavy television still had pull. A bad finish can cool a guy off, but Cody was not some cold challenger begging for a chant. He stayed one of the biggest sellers coming out of the weekend, which is the exact opposite of being thrown in the ditch. Punk leading the stadium merchandise proved he was still a main event problem, not a nostalgia act. That meant the crowd did not pick one and abandon the other. They kept both men hot. Think about what the boys in the back actually watched after Roman retained. They were there when the title picture stalled. They were there when Ringside News reported the loudest backlash around his WrestleMania 42 appearance came when fans broke into anti-TKO chants. They were there when the champion became a ghost and the weekly television starved because nobody was allowed to step into the gap. That is the dread of modern booking. When the crowd chanted against TKO at WrestleMania 42, WWE had just come off the biggest weekend of the year. Ask how many ticket renewals dropped the next morning. That number has never been printed. Roman still has that final boss feel. But since Mania, the problem has been what the company put around him. Wrestling World described his 2026 direction as being shaped by breaks and reshuffles. You cannot leave a champion parked and expect weekly television to cash the check. Newsable argued that long gaps between meaningful title defenses hurt the run, and I buy that, because no man can carry empty space. The anti-TKO chants were not normal heel heat. They were the crowd looking past the character and yelling at the corporate machine. When fans think the angle is externally driven, the top guy catches the heat. Now think about what that means. Here is where it turns. WWE pivoted because Roman's selective appearance rhythm left the audience needing one clean chase with real teeth. Cody and Punk felt immediate. You knew Punk was a draw. You didn't know Variety reported the November 2023 Raw hit 1,880,000 viewers when Punk returned, up 29% week over week. And when a guy changes the number that fast, the board notices and the locker room notices. Punk is the sharper event draw, while Cody is the steadier main event draw. WWE 2K26 listed Cody's WrestleMania 41 overall rating at 96, signaling that the company treats him like the face on the poster. Together, they cover each other's gaps. Punk brings the volatile attitude era feeling, and Cody brings the steady babyface push. According to Sports Illustrated, Triple H read the room and called an audible right. When the Roman-centered heat started boiling over, he pivoted instead of fighting the audience. Sports Yahoo noted WWE leaned into addressing concerns on TV instead of ignoring them, which is a massive shift from the old days when The Office would just push harder. By presenting Cody and Punk as peers, they shifted the narrative away from Roman and introduced a dream match that could anchor the summer. And that tells you they realized the danger of letting the product stall. You knew the corporate eyes were on the product. You didn't know Sports Illustrated reported external pressure from TKO influence and celebrity involvement forced friction in the creative process. And Triple H adjusted by injecting something clean and marketable that sells tickets. If Roman stayed the only story and half the audience checked out, the company would lose drawing money. PW Mania reported the philosophy now is to adapt and book week to week based on feedback. That keeps the show from feeling one note, and TPW noted that presenting them as equals made the match feel inevitable rather than forced. But there is a risk. If you chase the crowd too much, you become reactive and stop telling stories. That is the tightrope The Office is walking right now. And this is the wedge that splits every wrestling table in America. Are you the fan who thinks Punk has to win the big one to make the comeback mean something? Or are you the fan who says Cody cannot lose that spot after fighting so long to become the guy? Pick one. Cody winning makes sense because he is the polished standard bearer, while Punk winning works because his return points to one last top-of-the-card reckoning. The heat is real. A working-class dad in Ohio will say Cody is the better champion because he carries himself right, while his brother will argue Punk is the only one with enough edge to make the belt dangerous. That argument sells pay-per-views. Cody represents the man who left, built leverage, and came back to finish the family business. Punk represents the man who left angry and came back still carrying that old fight in his voice. Put restoration against unfinished business, and you have a main event without needing a heel turn on night one. That is why the chemistry feels earned. The Sportster laid out their shared history through developmental AEW proximity and public support. Ringside News reported Cody was publicly happy for Punk's WWE return. They look like two top guys who know the same road took chunks out of both of them, which brings us back to the timing of Cody versus Punk and why SummerSlam became the target. The setup pointed toward a slower build title match, letting both men keep their status without stepping on each other. Punk's post-Mania trajectory was about readiness, resetting without looking desperate. Cody's trajectory was about control, standing across from an elite star without blinking. If WWE ran it too soon, it would feel like a reaction. If they let it simmer, it became a destination. CBS Sports listed SummerSlam for August 1st and 2nd, and that gives the company just enough road to turn a tease into a real angle. Backlash or Clash in Italy would have been fast money, but SummerSlam gives them 2 nights and a giant stage. Smark Out Moment tracked Money in the Bank for September 6th, which was tempting, but waiting too long risks the boys getting hurt or the crowd moving on. Punk is not a guy you leave sitting in the driveway with the engine running forever. Now the final build needs to be simple. Keep both men protected, give them clean wins. Make Punk beat somebody credible to earn the shot in front of Cody. Then let them cut the promos. Punk says Cody became what he warned people about. Cody answers that Punk walked away while Cody carried the weight. One shove. That is all you need if the room is hot. By the time August hits, the match feels like an appointment. Triple H adapted in real time when the Roman angle stalled. The live audience backed the pivot by keeping Cody and Punk at the top of the merch stands. The SummerSlam contract is the logical endpoint for a tease that started in April. The only open question now is when Punk finally decides to take the microphone and tell the champion exactly when the bill comes due.